Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments, and I am bringing to you a album flip through of a more recent trip. This was a trip that I took with my husband, my parents, and my sister. We all went to Alaska, and so I actually have two albums for this trip, and so there will be two separate videos, but this is album one, and always best to start at the beginning. Thought I'd show you my custom foiled spine that I have for this particular set. I don't have these for every album that I've created just yet because I really like to match my spines to my album covers, and sometimes these metallic album covers that I love so much don't have spines available to match. So I compromised and got these blue album spines because I really wanted the spines. But most of the time I try to get them to match my albums because I'm a matchy-matchy kind of person. I don't really like it when they don't match. So we took the Land and Sea cruise in Alaska in the summer of 2016. This was truly an adventure and a very, very fun one. This was my dad's lifelong wish to be able to go and visit Alaska. So we took him, and my parents treated my sister and my husband and I to join them, which was really a thrill. We flew to Vancouver from Brooklyn, New York, where we lived at the time. And so one of the things I did on this particular trip, because we had specific events we did on specific days, and it was an organized trip where we were following a tour guide for the entire journey once we got on the ship. So I have markers to show me which day we're on, just to remind me, and then of course kept things like from the hotel and from packing our bags. I tried to do a similar style border too for when we were on the ship. All the introductory borders for the first page of each day are similar, so that it's more noticeable that way. So you'll notice that the style and the layouts are very different from the album I shared with you last time that was done nearly 20 years ago. Because our styles evolve over time, and so this one is a bit more simplistic with just the strip in the middle of decorative paper and then the embellishments. Here's day 3 on the ship. This was our wedding anniversary we were celebrating, so that was really special to be able to do that on the ship with my parents, who were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary from just a couple of weeks before. There's my daddy. Sometimes if you just add a little bit of an edge of a border, that's all you really need to do, and then just some embellishments and you're good to go, depending on your photos and whether you have enlargements or not. We stopped at Juneau, went and learned about sled dogs. Notice all the grass down here that I punched out for borders. Really doesn't need a whole lot of extra. And I tried to keep the border similar as the event progressed. Now that we have peekaboo pockets, which I don't think we had available when I put this together in 2016, I probably would have tried to utilize some peekaboo pockets so I didn't have quite as many layouts of the same event, but Still look at all the puppies. It's fun. I really didn't mind making the extra layouts. There was a tram we went on, up, up, and up. And we had dinner up at the top of the mountain. Second port of call, Skagway. We got off the boat there in Skagway, off the ship. We got onto a train. But before we got on the train, we walked all over Skagway, and I put "Where's Waldo?" because I'm actually in this picture, but unless you know which one I am, you might not necessarily see me, which is kind of funny. I thought it was funny. We visited museums. This was a poem that my husband's sister recited to him often, and we happened to walk into a museum where each scene in the poem is depicted in a special painting. It was a poem called "The Cremation of San Miguel," and she had to memorize it, and so everyone in the family, it seems, memorized at least a portion of it, which is kind of funny. My mother-in-law is a quilter, so we went in a shop of quilts, and because we went in a shop that had quilts, of course I took pictures of all of the quilts that I thought were fantastic so that she could see them. She was not on this trip. And then I used my hexagon punch with some of the decorative pages I was using with this album, and just created a quick area to put my title in as the background. Then I created railroad tracks down here because we got on a 100-year-old train. These railroad tracks are not actually railroad tracks, they are actually a fence. And you can tell because I didn't actually trim off the fence points, I just flipped it over, which is probably kind of cheesy on my part, but you know, it is what it is. And I thought they made effective railroad tracks, this punch. Kind of fun. You can see on these sticky notes that I have some journaling I need to go back in and try and recreate. I added these stickers of trees because that's the scenery that we saw on this whole trip, and it was a very long train ride we were on. And then I need to journal about the miners. This was the actual trail that the miners would take to get to the gold rush in the Yukon. We stopped the train when we got to Canada, and we got on buses. It's kind of interesting. At White Pass, all these flags and a little tiny hut, and we had to get off the train because we were in Canada. Then we drove on buses and saw beautiful scenery in Canada as we went through the Yukon Territory. Just gorgeous. So I made these roads. This is just using our decorative trimmer. And then I just added the white dotted line using a white gel pen down the center. Here we are on day 6. This was our cute bus driver. She was actually a return missionary for our church. So that was kind of fun to get to know her. And we played games on the bus. Our tour guide was really funny. She told lots of great stories, and we saw some great stuff along the way. This guy on a motorcycle hauling a trailer. Who does that? I don't know. I don't know if I would be brave enough to do that. Maybe you've done that. I have not. Anyway, just some fun things. Then we stopped in Dawson City and went and learned all about the Can-Can, and that was fun. Had some really good food there. Went and learned about gold mining and actually got to mine for our own gold in the water that was flowing in the stream. We each got to hold and put on, the ladies got to put on this huge gold nugget that was like 3 inches across. It was gigantic and very heavy. 15 carats, they said. You can bet they kept really good track of that. This border down here was made by punching holes in this textured paper and then putting a strip of textured golden paper behind the punched out area to make it look like gold nuggets. Kind of fun. We learned all about mining and watched the process. And of course my husband had to start watching Gold Rush, which was a popular show at the time. I think it's actually still on TV. He found it the other day and was astonished that it was still on. But this lady was very kind and taught us a lot about how to mine for our own gold and what to do in the river before we actually went down and got our feet wet, so to speak. These are all our pans of dirt we started with. Kind of fun. Here I am getting lost in memories and telling you all about my trip instead of telling you about the layouts, but these layouts are all kind of the same. So sometimes when you have similar layouts of an event like this, sometimes you may want to use peekaboo pockets just so that you don't have to make several different layouts that are all the same. But in my case, I wanted to be able to see all of these photos of my dad because this was what he really, really wanted to do and had dreamed of for so long. And so I didn't want to cover those up, and I wouldn't have covered those up even if I had had peekaboo pockets at the time. We got on a paddle boat, so that's why we're back to water down here. Toured up the river. One thing about titles, I'm kind of wishing that I had made this title maybe in white because the blue blends in so much you almost can't read it. So maybe just keep that in mind as you're considering doing your titles in your albums. Back to town in Dawson City again. And then we jumped on an airplane and flew to Fairbanks, Alaska, which will be in the next video. Thanks so much for joining me for this first half of our trip to Alaska, land and sea. I'll be back in the next video with part 2. I hope you enjoy that one as well. And until then, I hope you have many more creative moments. You have a great day.